Have you ever wanted to see Kevin Spacey doing his usual bad guy shenanigans? Have you ever asked yourself, what's in the box? Have you ever wanted to see the hands down most grotesque and disturbing sex device I have ever seen in my entire life? If so, stay tuned. This might just be the movie for you. Hello everyone, I'm Oxtapuss, that's Matty Pockets, and welcome to Movie Reviews. This is a new series where we do movie reviews for all your favorite films. And now our third ever movie review, we will be covering the 1995 film Seven. In Seven, we follow two detectives as they try to track down a satanic serial killer as he slaughters his victims thematically based upon the seven deadly sins. The seven deadly sins: pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, and sloth are known as the capital vices in Catholic teaching and can be seen throughout classical literature in everything from the Canterbury Tales to the Divine Comedy. But let's not get too deep into the history of it all. Let's talk movies. Fight Club, Panic Room, Zodiac, The Social Network, and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. All of these movies have two things in common. One, they're all very good movies that you're doing a disservice to yourself if you haven't watched them. And two, they're all directed by David Fincher. And you've probably guessed it by now, Fincher is also the director of Seven. David Fincher, the film directing prophet, was joined by Stephen Brown and Phyllis Carlisle as his producers, and neither of them have ever been involved in any other high-tier movie besides Seven. Yet in spite of them, Fincher still manages to deliver a wonderfully compelling movie. But let me chill before I hunt down that demigod David Fincher and hail him as a supreme being, because y'all aren't here to see me salivate over prodigious directing talent. You're here to see a tragic story and find out just what the hell is in that damn box. So let's get to the movie. Seven opens with a classic noir style. The lighting is dim and almost a sea green cast lays over the city in the first couple shots at the opening crime scene. We immediately get a feel for Detective William Somerset, played by the absolute national treasure Morgan Freeman, as he is seen getting ready for work. We can tell from his routine, the way he fixes his tie, how everything is laid out perfectly for him to get ready, even how he brushes one speck of dust off his suit, that he is obsessively organized and has an eye for even the smallest imperfections. Somerset reports to a murder scene with the kitchen that's looking #RatchetAF, and right off the bat, we learn A, he's at the end of his career, and B, he asks questions that others perceive as unnecessary and even kind of annoying. We know this because the detective tells Somerset bluntly, "I can't wait for you to retire." This ends the cold open and begins the opening credit sequence, which is filled with interesting cuts that depict a few things about the killer's persona. To start the main plotline of the film, Somerset is partnered with David Mills, played by the eighth world wonder Brad Pitt, who has recently moved to the city with his wife Tracy, played by the stunning Gwyneth Paltrow. The two are stark contrasts. Mills being young and a bit hot-tempered as he is fresh on the job, whereas Somerset is calm and kind of a modern-day Sherlock Holmes. Everything from the lighting, the rain beating down, the ruinous feel of the city, even the quippy dialogue in the first scenes embody a modern reinvention of classic noir-style filmmaking, which sets the mood early. At first, Somerset wants to retire despite the new case, and Mills wants to take the lead on the new series of murders. The detectives learn that the murders are thematic, and once the gluttony and greed murders occur, Somerset begins researching the seven deadly sins. He predicts there will be 5 more murders, however, he still wants to retire and leave the case to Mills. The writing up to this point is incredibly well executed. Between the dialogue, the character contrast in the detectives, and the demonic motivation of the serial killer, the suspense and dark tone of classic crime fiction are brought into this modern backdrop. Then, the two come onto the scene of the gluttony victim, where a man was force-fed like an adolescent that refuses to eat his veggies until his stomach bursted. Here, the director is able to establish a sense of claustrophobia using tight shots in narrow rooms, close-ups on the detectives, and the dark lighting. Also, We get certain inserts, such as when Somerset looks at the neck of the gluttony victim, which gives insight into his mind, even if Somerset isn't speaking directly on what he's looking for. This is reiterated when Somerset returns to the gluttony scene alone. Simply through the use of close-up and insert while following Somerset around the room, the viewer is kept on the edge of their seat, wondering exactly what he's looking for. This is answered in the police department when the team of detectives learn through Somerset that the killer's motivation is to complete 7 murders, one for each deadly sin. Somerset reads up on the 7 deadly sins in the library, and again through the use of close-ups, we're given insight into the detective's thinking. At this point, Mills and Somerset have developed a bit of a friendship, as Tracy, Mills' wife, invites Somerset over for dinner, and the two continue to work on the case. Throughout this scene, the camera repeatedly pans towards Mills' dogs as they appear to become more aggressive and constantly bark at Somerset. This gives us some low-key symbolism of how even well-behaved, well-trained beasts can revert back to their primal instincts when aggravating, unfamiliar variables are entered into the equation. But anyway, they look over some photographs from the Greed murder, where the victim died after being forced to remove a pound of his own flesh, resulting in him passing away face down, ass up, because that's the way we like to die. They decide to visit the Greed victim's wife, where in a really interesting way, they're led to a new clue. The wife recognizes that a painting in the victim's place is upside down. Not too much is revealed, and we as the audience want to know why. It's these little hints and clues that keep a viewer on the edge of their seat, and Seven nails them head on. From clues they gather from the painting and the other murder scenes, they are led to a suspect's apartment. Here they find a third victim, a drug dealer / child molester strapped to a bed. This one is Sloth. He is in critical condition after enduring a full year of forced bedriddenness, and he is in no way able to answer any questions asked by the detectives. The scene is kept high-paced, and the music adds a sense like we're about to see something big. The awesome music for this movie was done by composer Howard Shore, and seeing as how he also did the scores for The Lord of the Rings, Silence of the Lambs, and The Departed, it's far from a surprise to see that this divinely talented musical genius also kills it with the score for Seven. But anyway, the sense of claustrophobia is carried through here as well, and the director does a really good job of doing this by virtue of the grim lighting from the hall into the victim's apartment, and even the cloudy, completely fogged outside that you can see through the windows. Additionally, there are things written in, such as the string of air fresheners on the ceiling, that keep the audience asking questions. Also, the gruesomeness of the murders is not overly done for shock value, but actually establishes the character of the killer, even though we're yet to even meet him. Later, Tracy tells Somerset at a diner that she's pregnant and hates the city, and Somerset tells her that she should only tell Mills if she plans on keeping it. Here is a nice break in the film because it adds to the characters and gives them more life, even if it's taken out of the major plot of the story. Sometimes, these side character developing conversations can seem forced if they're not readily intertwined within the major plot line. However, here, that isn't so much the case, since this scene sort of extends from the dinner scene earlier. Then, the detectives use library records to identify a John Doe and track him to his apartment. On the record, a host of Christian literature has been checked out, everything from Aquinas to the history of the Catholic Church. Again, this stuff is an interesting piece of writing because it shows the killer is motivated by more than just earthly things, but some sort of satanic justice. Other examples of this type of compelling religion-based antagonist are Holly Jones, the deranged satanic serial kidnapper and murderer in Prisoners, or Silas, the pale weirdo that believes himself to be God's hand of wrath from the Da Vinci Code. But anyway, the first time they track down John Doe, they get into a standoff. Again, tight corners, narrow alleyways, and keeping everything within the broken structures of the city. This adds an element of danger and draws the viewer into the world of the film. It feels closed and dangerous. The music, the sounds of the city, the rain, even John Doe's trench coat and hat, which make him look like Rorschach, are all classically noir. It's unique in its own right, but in such a way that pays tribute to classic filmmaking techniques. During the chase, John Doe flees and Mills gives chase, as people are sitting around super casually watching TV for just having an armed stranger run through their apartment and out their window. Later in this chase scene, Mills falls from a fire escape and injures his arm, in a scene where during the filming, Brad Pitt actually accidentally slipped and fell into a windshield, leaving cuts and requiring real-life stitches. But then, Mills searches a truck before being struck in the head with a tire iron. While he is incapacitated, John Doe walks up and holds a gun up to Mills' head for a moment before escaping, showing us that for some reason, he did not want to kill Bill. Kill Mills. Afterwards, Mills is shook and we see signs of his short temper and hot-headedness as he breaks into the apartment despite Somerset's suggestion to do otherwise. The apartment contains hundreds of notebooks, revealing John Doe's psychopathy as well as a clue to another murder. Also, a fun fact here, all of John Doe's notebooks were really fully filled in by hand, written for the film. They took 2 months to complete and cost $15,000 of labor for the sorry sons of bitches that had to write and fill out these piles and piles of notebooks. Anyway, everything here is grossly sadistic, and we see how carefully well executed this man is when we see photographs of Mills. It's a testament to how they're able to bring this force to life, even though we haven't seen his face or even heard him speak a single word. The detectives also find John Doe's journal, which reads just how disgusted he is with humanity, another thematic point in the writing which ties him in with the devil. Tradition has it that the reason the devil rebelled against God was due to his disgust for humanity. The reason the murders are driven towards others' flaws, a twisted righteousness, is exactly the kind of stuff depicted in the devil in Catholic art and literature. John Doe is turned into more than just a killer, but almost a tool of Satan himself. This continues when we get to lust, and while you have seen from our other movie reviews that I do have a proclivity to poke fun at and enjoy gore and grotesque imagery, I do draw a line somewhere. I caution you to briefly look away, starting now, if you have even a moderate sensitivity to horribly disturbing things, because this is the contraption that led to the tragic rape and murder of the lust victim. But moving on, the following day the detectives attend the scene of a fifth victim, Pride. The Pride victim was a model whose face had been mutilated by John Doe, and she was given the option to call for help and live disfigured or commit suicide by taking pills. In a twisted way, John Doe was actually somewhat right here, as the woman opted to end her own life rather than live a life without her beauty. As Somerset and Mills return to the police station, John Doe turns himself in, covered in the blood of an unidentified victim. John Doe offers to take the detectives to the final two victims and confess to the murders, but only under specific terms, or he will plead insanity. Somerset questions this, but Mills agrees. Finally, we're taken out of the city and per John Doe's direction, taken to a remote desert location. Everything up to this point has been masked with bleak weather and tight corners, yet now as the finale of the movie comes together, we're brought to this open space which creates a feeling of safety and as if things are coming to an end. This contrast serves the mood well and takes you out of the sense of gloom where you're not expecting anything so gruesome. However, if you've seen this movie before, you know that the gruesomeness is not quite yet over. After they reach the location and Spacey has told the detectives his motivation, it seems that he has a godlike complex, adding to the sadistic nature of the murders. While at the desert, a delivery van approaches. Mills holds John Doe at gunpoint, while Somerset intercepts the driver who has been instructed to deliver a box to Detective Mills. Just as a brief aside, it's really unintentionally funny when Detective Somerset sends the driver of the van running off into the desert sunset. Legend has it, he's still running through the desert to this day. John Doe begins to taunt Mills by telling him how envious he was of his life with Tracy. Somerset opens the box and in a sudden panic warns Mills to stay back and drop his weapon. John Doe then says that his sin was envy and that Tracy died as a result of this. This is also the moment that Mills learns that his wife was pregnant. So, I'm no John Kramer, but I'd like to play a game. Let's play What's in That Box. This is a game where I give you 3 choices and you choose whichever is actually in the box. So A, it's a creepy ass, man-eating, giant Jack-in-the-Box. B, a graphic yet tasteful dick in a box. Or C, it's Tracy's head in the box. If you guessed A or B, then you need to seek medical attention. However, if you guessed C, I have good news and bad news for you. The good news is that you were right. It is indeed Tracy, Detective Mills' wife's head in the box. However, the bad news is that it's Tracy's goddamn decapitated head in the box. That's right. Mills has just learned that his pregnant wife was murdered and decapitated by John Doe, and after Somerset tried his best to talk him out of it, an absolutely distraught Mills unloads his magazine into John Doe, killing him. Now, his plan is completed just as he wanted, as John Doe represents envy and Mills represents the final deadly sin, wrath. Somerset and the police captain watch while the devastated Mills is taken away. Somerset offers his help for Mills. When the captain asks where he'll be, Somerset simply says, around. And with that, our movie concludes. Let's keep it blunt. This film is more than worth the watch. It's got good to great camera work, writing, directing, and acting. The what's in the box scene is iconic and tied the film together in a way that was surprising as well as made sense. The way Kevin Spacey tells Mills what he did to his wife brings together his character as a malicious Luciferian psychopath, while Mills is left broken and Somerset remains calm and collected as he has throughout the entire film. Another fun thematic tidbit is that despair is often considered the eighth deadly sin in Orthodox Christianity. This fits perfectly with Somerset's world-weary view of life. He has a blasé attitude to death and destruction, and it hardly even affects Somerset anymore because he has been calloused through years of seeing what urban crime and violence can do to people. Finally, there weren't many, if any, questions left unanswered, and as such, David Fincher is able to keep the viewer at the edge of their seat while also establishing character. By establishing character and a sense of empathy for those characters, the final scene is all the more troubling and emotional, especially since Tracy was so innocent in all of this. This is easily the best movie we have covered so far on our movie reviews, and as such, Matty Pockets and I award this movie 9 heads in a box out of 10. Thank you for watching. We spent dummy time making this video, so if you would like to show some support, slapping that like button or also slapping that subscribe button would help us out tremendously. I will be linking my Twitch and Discord in the description if anyone would like to come talk movies, play some games, or just hang out with us. Lastly, we're very excited to announce that next week will be the first time we do a movie suggestion from the comments, so you better make sure you're commenting anything you want to see us review. So, as you should know by now, I'm Oxtapuss, that's Matty Pockets, and this has been the movie review for 7 Doses.